Today I've got some information about a leaf blower. The direction of my channel is going to start going into just self-help type stuff. Whatever might help someone. It could be anything. In this particular video, it's going to be about a leaf blower. This is the biggest, baddest leaf blower on the market. And at first, I figured out that there was two different types of models. There was one with what they call a hip control for your left hand, and then there was one with the trigger right here. And at first I thought I wanted a hip control because I used one of those and it just had a selectable knob right here on your left hand, and this part was just a wand control. But what I learned was this does have cruise control. So the stop is all the way at the top. You see that? And then this is the throttle. So you can use a throttle like normal, but this is the cruise control. So I wouldn't just use this knob right here, even though you can. It'll pull the thing down. What you want to do is you want to relieve the stress and then pull this knob down to wherever you want it. And then you let go of the trigger and it holds it there. So you could go like this, pull it all the way down, it holds it there. So if you were to just operate this trigger like this, it's really stiff and it's putting a lot of stress on the internal mechanism of this handle. So definitely don't do that because you don't want to break stuff. What we got here is a two-stroke model. So we got to mix the fuel and the oil, but the benefit of having a two-stroke engine is it's the lightest possible engine. You don't need any crankcase. You don't have to worry about oil changes or anything. The oil is self-lubricating. You mix the oil with the gas, but you can't be slow and forget to put oil mixture in there. And also, it's not a good idea to run a two-stroke engine all the way out of fuel. So keep that in mind, because if you run all the way out of fuel, you run all the way out of oil. And that's kind of like a dry start for any type of engine when you don't have any oil lubricating through it. So I wanted to add something. If you don't run the fuel completely out of it, how do you store it over winter? Well, it's best to put fuel stabilizer in the last tank of the season. You know, it wouldn't be a bad idea to just run it completely out the very last time of the season either. It's not going to hurt, but just don't run your engine completely out of fuel every single time you use it, because you would be lowering the lifespan of your two-stroke engine, because nobody's really going to replace the piston every 100 hours or so on a blower. They're just going to throw it away and buy a new one. This blower did cost like $650 or something, maybe almost $700 with tax and whatnot. So keep that in mind. Also, you know, if you're going to keep the fuel in it all winter and you do the stabilizer route, it would be a good idea to get ethanol-free fuel. But the 10% ethanol isn't really going to hurt anything if you're running it all summer. You don't need to get ethanol fuel every single tank, but when you store it over winter, you want to use the ethanol-free and stabilizer. Hope I made that clear. The benefit of the two-stroke, like I was saying, is power to weight ratio. And whenever you're dealing with something like a blower, you want it to be as light as possible on your back, because you could be operating it for like sometimes more than 4 hours a day, depending on how many jobs you got. And I don't do this kind of stuff for a living yet. I'm just playing with this kind of thing. But if I needed to, I could get into the lawn maintenance business because I've got all the correct equipment so far. So I'm gonna do some blowing real quick and just show you how well this thing clears leaves. I can't really think of too much else to show you with this. What we got here is the choke, and we're gonna pull the choke down, and then we always wanna hit the primer bulb. And on something like this primer bulb does not flood the engine. All this does is circulate the fuel through these hoses and make sure that you're not sucking air, so it's gonna start as soon as possible. Then, like I said, you wanna make sure that this is not off. Off is all the way up top here. So we'll pull it down a little bit. If you were pulling and cranking on this thing with the switch off, you could flood it out because you're pulling fuel through the engine and the spark is not happening. So now we're Normally we got 2 hands, but I'm gonna hold it with my foot here, being really careful with these hoses. And we're just gonna give it a nice, actually I'm gonna do like this and pull it because it pulls straight up. The engine is cold, it's gonna bog. You gotta give it a little bit of time to warm up, and that lets everything get to the proper expansion rates so you don't score your cylinder. So I'm gonna let it run for, it's okay to give it a few blips, but you would not want to just start it up and then peg it. So after, give it a few more blips. I'm gonna give it about 20 more seconds and then get to blowing. Look at the size of this hose, by the way. This thing is massive. I got a big hand too. I can fist it. Now you're not gonna really be able to hear me, so I'll just show you how this thing works.